Hi, this is Alex Rodriguez from Secure Ideas/Professionally Evil, and I am going to be going over how to set up your Bash Tricks environment. I'm going to be starting a series soon on how to essentially optimize your experience while using Bash on different Linux operating systems. It can either be for pen testing or just general usage. I use Linux as a daily driver, and so I've kind of just learned these from just experience and the amount of time that I've had in Linux. So this GitHub repo that we're looking at right now is going to be the location where we're going to maintain or keep all of the different challenges slash topics that we're going to talk about. And so this video is just going to be an intro video on the installation methods section. So as you can see, the readme right here, you can click on here to see, for it to take you to the installation methods directory. Just a quicker hyperlink for logical flow while you're reading through the repo. And then we're only going to go over the first and second method for installation. The third method is more of if you're a advanced usage or advanced user that knows how to either interact with Docker or Vagrant, or you don't need to set up an environment like that at all and you have an actual Linux or Unix system. So really quick before we get started, I have built some niceties into the first and second methods. They essentially are bash aliases, and I can actually, if you want to, just do a video specifically on how I created the whole environment, the aliases. It can go down a rabbit hole really quick. But the first method is probably the easiest for a lot of users, and we're going to go ahead and so this initial easy method for installation is how I recommend a lot of people that are not as familiar with the command line do, and the reason why is because it actually you can do a lot of it through the GUI. So one of the things that might not be apparent is that you need to make sure that you have all the prerequisites installed, and this just kind of links back to the first page talking about you need to have Vagrant and some type of hypervisor. I'm going to be using VirtualBox and Vagrant on Linux for my system. This links to the Samurai WTF repo, which is another repo that we have, and we link to a YouTube video done by Weaponized on how to install Vagrant. So if you want to install, or whenever you go to install Vagrant, if you just do this, follow that link, then you will go directly to the YouTube video, which will take you through how to install it. Alright, so I have already got everything from the prerequisites installed. So now I'm going to just follow the steps. I'm going to click on this link to go to the latest release, and then now that I've got the latest release, I'm going to download the zip file, and we're going to go to home, src demo, and we're going to drop it in there. Now that it's done, let's hop over to terminal. And we're already in that directory, so we're going to unzip it. The other way that you can do this is by opening up a file explorer, or any other way that you know how to unzip a zip file. You can do that. So I just like to do it through the terminal. So now we're in here, and since we have Vagrant, and we can validate that by doing Vagrant version. Cool, we're running the most up-to-date version of Vagrant. We can now go ahead, if we do an ls, there are a few files here. The main one that we're going to be interacting with is that Vagrant file. I've got a few aliases in Bash to go ahead and essentially automate that interaction. So if you see me running any type of command that you might not know the syntax for, it's probably an alias for chaining a few commands together. So these are all my different aliases. The first one that I'm going to do is just follow the directions like from the README. It's just going to be the vagrant up. If we go back, all we're going to do is, since we've downloaded and unzipped the directory, we cd'd into it, or we went inside the directory, and we're just going to do that vagrant up, and then we're going to do the vagrant SSH. So hop back over to the terminal. We're going to do vagrant up. And since I was doing the recording, I figured it'd be easier to just go ahead and have that vagrant box pulled down. So it's going ahead and importing the most recent version, but your experience with it might take it a little bit longer because it's going to go ahead and pull down that virtual machine image from Vagrant Cloud. And so as it gets spun up, it will then go through, and I can actually go ahead and show you that Vagrant file while we're walking through this. This is really the only portion that you care about. The rest of this is just me running provisioning steps to set it up for you and make it nice and easy. It's going ahead and it installs Docker, and the reason why I'm using Docker specifically is because it'll make troubleshooting a lot easier if anyone does have any issues. It's going to pull down the latest version of the bash Docker image, which is an official image released and maintained by Docker. Well, they maintain a versioning of it. So that will allow us some consistency across different environments, no matter if you're running this on a Windows machine or OS X machine. It just kind of gives us a little bit more consistency. So this is Docker getting installed. Cool. It just finished, and as you can see, once it finished pulling down Docker, it showed the Docker version, and then it pulled down the bash Docker image right here, just so that way it's expedited and you don't have to wait for it to get pulled down once you get into the machine. And it pulled down the latest version, and then it cloned the bash tricks GitHub repo. And this is so that way whenever I update that repo with more examples, it'll automatically go ahead and pull down all the updates whenever you go to interact with it. So one of the things that if you might not be getting the examples that I'm talking about from the GitHub repo, if all you do is just do vagrant provision one more time, it will go ahead and run through all the different provisioning steps and pull down the most up-to-date repo information. So if you have any issues with being able to access or see some of the files that I'm talking about, try and run vagrant provision before reaching out. It might be able to help solve your problems. So now we're going to do vagrant SSH, and now we're going to interact. We're inside that virtual machine. And this is the part that I was talking about where I created some bash aliases. So if you do PE hyphen or tac, and then you do tab, then it'll show you the different aliases that I've created. And the PE is for professionally evil, if you're curious. So now we're just going to do PE bash. And as you can see, we're running bash 5017 as of June 3rd, and this is the GitHub repo. So then whenever you get done with whatever tip or trick we were talking about, then all you have to do is type in exit, and it exits out of the Docker container. And then once you are done inside the virtual machine, you can type in exit again. And then whenever you're done with the virtual machine completely, what you can actually do is either vagrant halt, and that will stop the machine. It's the same thing as you going into VirtualBox and hitting the stop button through the GUI. It's just automated through the command line instead. And then whenever you want to go ahead and create a new environment, which that might be something that you do if you're having issues and just the whole VM is acting weird, what you can do is you can just do vagrant destroy. And it will prompt you to ensure that you definitely want to destroy the VM. And you're going to hit Y if you actually want to, of course. And then it is no longer there. So, that was the first installation method. Now if we go back to the GitHub repo, then we can go back to install methods, and we go to the second method, which, if you're paying attention up here, in programming, normally counting starts at 0. So I label my directories normally that way as well. So installation method 00 is the first installation method, and installation method 01 is the second installation method. Just trying to keep you in the mentality of treating Bash and this GitHub repo as a programming language. So, of course, make sure you have the prereqs, and then what you can actually do is you can click on this vagrant file, and this is the same exact thing that I was showing you before. Here's all the provisioning steps. So, to do this one, instead of having the GitHub repo cloned, I'm just going to make a temp directory. Oh, by the way, if you notice something in my video that I don't explain and you want to know about it, please comment on it in the YouTube comments, because sometimes I just do things that I, out of habit, have done for a while. So an example is this, sorry, didn't switch. So I backed out of the bash tricks 00 folder and by doing a cd ... ls just to see what was in there, and then I was going to make a temp directory, or I did make a temp directory, and then what I was getting ready to explain was that this cd ! $$ is essentially, it's telling bash, or in my instance CSH, but it's consistent across bash as well. It's telling the next command down, this I was typing cd like this, and then the $! Will then access the last variable from your previous command. So the exclamation point normally tells you that it's from the previous command or a previous command, and then the $ is indicating the last variable or the last argument from your previous command. So if I hit tab, ZSH will actually autocomplete that for me just to give me a preview as to what it is. But as you can see, I'm already inside the temp directory, so we're not going to cd into a directory that's not there. So now, this being the second installation method, you can wget, or you can actually just right click on the page, save page as, and then save it as vagrant file. And whenever you do that, it will grab that same vagrant file that we had from before, and this is exactly what I was talking about. And like I said, please let me know if you want me to do a video explaining different parts of this script that I did for provisioning, because I actually had quite a bit of fun creating this, just mainly because I like bash programming and shell programming in general. So just let me know, and we're going to do the same command up to go ahead and create the VM, and it's importing that same virtual machine image. Alright, it just finished. And now we're going to do the vagrant SSH command to go ahead and access inside the folder, or inside the VM. And it will have the same exact aliases that we had shown last time. And the reason why I'm showing you these two different ways to install things is based on skill level and how comfortable you feel with either a command line or a GUI. You might prefer one or the other. And I just wanted to go ahead and kind of get you acquainted with the environment that we're going to be using. So, feel free to... One second. Let's go ahead and make that not as blinding. Alright. So, that pretty much wraps everything up. The last method right here is more advanced, and I'm going to go ahead and just show you. The reason why, like I had said before, I'm setting up this environment is to make sure we have consistency. So if you choose to do this third installation method, I'm going to just let you know that I probably won't be as active to try and fix whatever issues you're talking about, as long as it's something that's fixable from a bash perspective. Then I will absolutely help out as much as possible. But sometimes there's just incompatibilities between the versions of bash. And an example is, no matter what we do, you need to run a bash version greater or equal to 4.4, and the reason why is because there is a built-in command that is called mapfile, and it's used to create arrays. Well, it can do a lot of things, but it's really good at creating arrays, and so you need to be able to support that. And the most recent version of Ubuntu is actually on like bash version 5.0. So as long as you're using, like I had mentioned before, or like I had mentioned in this README, that vagrant file will work if you don't want to use Docker and you just want to use bash instead on that vagrant box or vagrant virtual machine. Those two are just kind of synonymous terms. And this is just the warning, and I will try and help out as much as possible, but just let you know it will be more difficult if we're not on the same environment. So if you have any suggestions or want to just write me and ask me to do something in one of the tutorials, please feel free. I'm trying to cover as much knowledge as I can think of, and like I had said, if I do something that you're like, oh, how'd you do that? Just please let me know in either the YouTube comments or Twitter, and I will try and explain that the next time. So, thank you very much, and have a good day.